Welcome to the Robinhood Capitalist. I'm your host, DJ Flores. With me, my coach, and hopefully you guys reach out to him too. But coach, I want you to do most of the talking. I feel like now, starting this other show with my brother, I feel like I'm doing too much talking. So I want you to take over. But again, this is the recap show. We'll start the intro, and then I really just want to break down. We had Diane on from.
She's awesome.
Uh, she, is she not a character? I
Yeah,
told
she's awesome.
didn't have enough room to keep her graphics up, but from the original Assist, uh, uh, her story amazing. It's so odd how, like you said, Coach, a lot of them, it seems that entrepreneurial spirit is what a lot of our guests seem to have, and you nailed that with they find a kind of a spot or a need, and they just have this itch, this urge that they can't fight through, and so they, like Diane said, her and her husband put a lot on the line and a lot of their hard work and investment into this. And even, I mean, props to her. I think, and I kind of want to get into this, and maybe we'll start here, and you can give me what your thoughts are when she said about not raising price. Wait, what? Obviously I give props to that, but I think that's a danger point in a way of business. Like, and I get, I seen it in logistics, in the logistics world. I seen because markets fluctuate. The logistics world was that you have these drivers that, when the rates got really crazy, and it was more, again, it's just like anything, it's just like the stock market, it's just like the housing market, it's just like every market. But either one person's in control or the other person's in control, and so when the brokers are in control and they're driving the prices down unbelievably, there's drivers taking loads for less than $1 a mile. Like, I've never owned a truck. I don't really know what the exact costs go into that, but I know for sure $1 a mile is not getting you you're going out of business eventually. Like, you're working for free and you're going out of business. And so, like, that kind of, like, I had a, oh, I like that, but oh,
But be
be
careful.
careful. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, no, on the first part, she said that she was challenged to come up with a solution for it, and they accepted the challenge. And that's kind of what the entrepreneurial spirit's all about, is you see the need. And, a lot of us would have looked at it and said, as somebody says, "Hey, I need you to fix this for me." It's like, yeah, right. That's not what I do. All right. It's not my job. I don't do that. I can't just invent things. But she looked at it and said, challenge accepted, I think were the words you used when we were talking
Yeah.
to her. And she said challenge accepted, and then looks at a miter box and looks at that and says, that might work. So again, the creativeness and the thought process of just, um, a lot of us get stuck in the can I do this, and we get worried about, can I really do this. She didn't. She looked at, okay, how can I do this, and she added that word how, which just to your brain says there is a way. I've just got to figure it out. And her brain started figuring those creative solutions out, and she sees a miter box and says, I think this will work. And then they make a few adjustments, and that whole process was just wild. But that really is the
Whoa.
entrepreneurial spirit. It's seeing a need, and instead of accepting it that it's the way it has to be, it's a challenge to be solved. And that was awesome. On the second thing, you're talking about the price point. We do have to be careful on the price point. And I'm a firm believer that anybody that has a business, it is a moral obligation for you and your business to make a profit. That is your
Mm.
moral obligation. You want to keep your employees.
Yes, yes,
You
yes.
want to take care of your employees. If you have a product that's truly serving, then you've got to make enough to live, to help other people live, and to keep the product in the market. And so there is a moral imperative to keep a profit within this business in order to grow it to a point that you can serve as many people as possible. So not knowing her price point, or whether inflation has affected the raw materials that go into building it or not, it's hard for me to say. If within their margins there's leeway to keep that price the same, I think that's a wonderful thing. It's a good, I mean, not to make light of it, but it's a good marketing tagline as well, and so it'll help bring in some
Absolutely.
more people. So it can be leveraged, but you're right, it can't. It's, you've got to do it with with all the information so that you're making a good choice and it's not running you right out of business.
Well, and I think that's where a lot of business owners, and again, you work with more than me, but I've worked for a lot of these smaller companies like Diane's and a lot of our products on Safe and Sound that are just starting out. And I feel like a lot of small businesses, that's where they kind of get stuck, is they focus on what corporate America has clearly driven down everybody's throat, is price, 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 and drive the price down, move it all to China, move it to the cheapest. Where's the next place we could find
Yeah.
cheaper? And let's just drive it down. And I think that's where a lot of companies, and they fall for that Shark Tank mentality of, oh, well, you got to get your cost down. And no, I think you just have to build your value, or know who your audience is, and kind of like she did. Again, I think she did everything right, but I think it's where small businesses end up stuck. She's even in her marketing of the video we shared, and she even mentioned and showed in the example that foot funnel, I think it was called. And that's not her product, that's some other product, but she is taking the extra step to thinking. And so, like, don't
Yeah.
devalue that. You're following the process and making it as easy as possible for somebody to really use your product, and it's going to give them the results faster than charge.
It,
It's worth it.
and don't and we're not saying to gouge, but
No, 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 no,
charge
no.
appropriate, charge the right. Make sure your pricing is where it needs to be. And you're absolutely right about small businesses. The urge is to try to be the cheapest. I'm going to compete on price, and that's the quickest way to run your small business out of business, is to go in and, instead of finding your niche and finding your unique selling proposition, the thing that sets you apart from everyone else, instead of leveraging that to be the best in town, you're trying to compete and be the cheapest in town, and that'll run you out of business faster than just about anything. You rarely, if ever, I don't even know if there's ever a situation where you're going to find where the cheapest and the best are the same.
That's the Zig Ziglar quote that I go to and live off of. But you get two of three, and that's it. So cheap, fast, or good, but you can only get two. So it could be cheap, it could be fast, but it won't be good. It could be good, it could be fast, but it won't be cheap. And it's just the law of how products and life and services and everything, I feel like, work.
Yeah.
Uh,
Well, and and you can choose. It's not that one is bad or the other. You can choose a lane. I don't think there's a human being alive that couldn't make a hamburger at their house that's better than a McDonald's hamburger. But there is nobody else that is good at selling hamburgers as McDonald's, right? So
bingo,
you can pick
bingo.
that cheap and fast, and
Yeah.
you can run that lane and be very happy and make a lot. But as a small business owner competing against that big Goliath that's running cheap and fast, you might want to focus on what makes you different, and that's probably going to be more on quality, and then being really loud. Like our buddy David told us, it's not the best that wins, it's the known and the loud that wins. So we got to help get these folks known.
Shout out to Mr. BYOE, but yes, I agree. Literally, and again, I think that's where we've come. Me and Nick having our podcast last night about The Chosen just really gets me thinking deeper into all of the world and how it works. But I think we've confused even that to questioning just everything. Uh, and we feel like we have a certain way, but we just have to question it, and always be questioning. I think that's one thing I learned from John. John, that's why one of his big things was always make sure there's, if everybody has the same opinion, then somebody doesn't belong in a room. He wants that differing opinion because, and I think a lot of people don't grasp why somebody would want that. But even me and Nick, we want differing opinions to come on the show and be guests. So anybody who's watching it, please, we want to know, and we're not going to beat you up. We're not going to say anything mean. We just want to know, like, because I think that's what we need more of. Like, just be curious to why people believe or think what they do, and then be open enough to want to know deeper. And I think, like, if we can get to a point where we're having more of those open dialogues and conversations, like, oh, I think the more you talk those things through, it seems always there's one side that's like, oh, okay, I get what you're saying there. Actually, I'll give a shout out to you, Coach. I wanted to mention this last night on the show, but um, it's words, and so words. I think we've gotten to the point, and that's where shout out to Elon, but Elon with Mr. Don Lemon, and literally he says, you want censorship, you want it so bad. No, I just want you to be nice. No, like words, everybody should be allowed to say whatever they want to say. Words shouldn't sting, and if they sting, and I got this from you, Coach, but like when I got the, oh, you're weak or soft, and you're like, well, if it hurts, then maybe there's something there. And I was like, ooh. And so that's that. If the word bothered me, and again, it wasn't, and so thank you for that. And I think that's where a lot of people get stuck is, okay, well, that word offended me or bothered me, then it's like you said, well, look in. And then when I looked in, and I'm like, okay, yeah, that I know I'd stung a long time ago. I was known as the weak person. Then I took the strong role and tried to be the asshole and roll everybody over. That doesn't work either. So I kind of play. I'm the good guy. I'm not a nice guy, so I'm not weak. I'm just a good guy. So if I see you beating up somebody, I will stomp you. But literally, I'm a good guy now. I choose to be good. I'm not
So,
a.
that's kind of what we need more of in the world, is that last little bit. And I agree with the freedom to say anything. And that's our First Amendment rights, and we should fight for and value those. But we should have the right to do that. But we should also accept the responsibility to know when to keep our mouth shut and when to say things we need to say. And so it's kind of like, the purpose of a strong fighting man. It's important to know how to fight. It's important how to take care of yourself, but it's even more important to know not to rely on it, to not use it.
Yes,
Right? It's
absolutely.
the strong man with quiet restraint that we need more of. Well, I think the same thing with free speech. Uh, I'm going to agree that we all have the right to go on the street corner and say pretty much anything, but I don't think you ought to do it.
I agree. I agree. But again, I think, and yes, I agree with you. Yeah, we shouldn't just be just calling out and saying the worst and crudest and meanest things possible to everybody. But I think again, I think we've towed the line that it's kind of closed people off to be even having the open dialogue or conversation, to be curious to, and having somebody like, and again, that's what I'm saying with having guests come on, like, please, you're an atheist, you're a whatever, like, please come on, like, tell us why, like, we just want to know, we want to understand, and so it's
Everything has
more having
everything
those
has gotten so
conversations where
polarized.
it's understanding.
Yeah, everything has gotten so polarized, and you can't have a conversation without just anger and yelling, and a lot of it is what we see, and you get it from X, you get it from other social media feeds, you get it on the news, you get it everywhere, and it's just this constant bickering. And so I'm finding it, and I've generally been able to talk to anybody with an open mind, but I'm finding it harder to bite my tongue, because it just starts to bleed over into everything you do, and it makes it harder. My philosophy that I will espouse is that regardless of what you believe and what I believe, I think instead of focusing on what we disagree on, let's find that 1% that we agree on and see what we can do with that and work from there. That's getting a whole lot harder to do.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. And I think going back to kind of where we started in this point, I don't know how we got down this rabbit hole, but um, this quote is just so powerful. And I think if people can just keep reading this back, like, this was one that I go to. That's why I have it on the screen. I have it handy regularly. But your perception of me is a reflection of you. My reaction to you is an awareness of me. And so again, I think that folds both ways. And so your perception of somebody else, and I had talked with my second oldest son yesterday about that. I said, I think what people need to realize is when you have something that's bothering you of somebody else, more than likely there's something that's triggering in you that you just have to look back into and be like, why is this bothering me? Oh, it's because maybe it's something you used to wrongly do, and now you feel the urge to tell them to not do it, or it just bothers you in a way that you feel that you have to say something. But uh, I think when we can focus on that quote, there's so much power to really. To me, it's just always, and back to you again. So thank you for that. But it was that, oh, you're soft. It was like, ooh, it bothered me, but why? And so it was the then look back in and be like, okay, this is why, and start to question those things. So, and that's really what I think we just need more of. Like, if there's words that hurt, things that are said, like, or if you're explaining, hey, I think it's absolutely perfect for the top CEOs and banks of the world to get billions and millions of dollars, while the 40%, and I've seen this on Congress, but 40% of their workforce, the tellers, the people who actually talk to people, the front line, as we'd call them in war, they are on public assistance. I was like, whoa, that's like, if people don't even hear that and say, whoa, like, we've gone so wild that it's beyond crazy. So, like, they are working, but they still need help. Well, these people are making millions and billions of dollars. It doesn't make sense. And so, yeah. Again, like you said, speaking up and failing to bite your tongue. I think that's where Jesus was during those times. I think that's where we're unfortunately facing in these
So,
times.
and to your quote, that the power that we have is within that greater awareness of self. And because we you get the stimulus and then we respond to the stimulus, right? And Viktor Frankl said that between the stimulus and the response, there's a space. And within that
Mm,
space, that's where we have our power, because that's the power to decide how we're going to react one way or the other. And
yeah.
it takes a really good sense of self and a good sense of awareness of self to utilize that power, because there's a lot of power in that space to reacting in a positive way versus a negative way to whatever that stimulus is. And it's not easy, but it's a choice. And we just have to make better choices more often throughout our day.
But that was the resounding thing that me and Nick kept talking about last night. And I think, shout out to Nick, thank you. That was so much fun. But literally, we talk choices, same thing. And it's when we realize, and that's what I said last night. Like, when we realize and just take ownership of, again, I had this crazy. It was like the day to have that talk yesterday, but the talk was with Julian, and then on the show was we when we can just own everything, even the things that we can look back, we can go and have that deep thought and replay that situation, that experience, that whatever it was. And we can say, like, clearly, there was nothing I could do to stop that. If when we can own even that, and just know that there was some choice that we made, like, in the end we get just two choices, and one of these choices led us to be in that environment, in that thing, and that's just the experience we had to kind of learn from. The power that you have, the way that this game kind of changed, and the way that life changes, uh, I feel like that's what this the chosen is trying to share. That's what the Bible tries to share, is everybody's kind of journey of that in their own way, an experience of, like, Nicodemus again, maybe we're doing this all wrong. Hold on, what you're the all wise, all knowing, you tell everybody the answers. Maybe you don't know all the answers, and I think that's where we need to, when we can realize. And that's right. I said this last night to Nick, and again, it's still in my head, obviously. But Jordan Peterson, I watched him, a huge fan of him, and he's always crying. And at first, I'm like, is he always crying? And then as going through this journey, I realized why he's always crying, because you just, like, there's a lot that you watch and you see, and again, you're so aware of yourself that you start to then get aware of everything. And when you're aware of everything, this world can either, again, what you decide to then choose to focus on can either take you to a deep dark place, that seems like there's no way out but to either be broken and terrible and aggressive and take, or like, but again, it's the choice.
It's the choice of focus, and the problem we have now is every device we own, everything that we do is all leading you down a very dark path. And so it's leading to the divisiveness, it's leading to negativity. It's always been that every news organization knows that it's the negative that makes people watch and turn on and gets ratings. It's not the positive. And so it's always been that way. But now it's amplified times a million because, you can't even look at your watch without getting messages that are coming through anymore. It's everywhere and it's hard to get away from. And so now we're seeing depression rates go up across the board. We're seeing suicides go up across the board. And it's a choice, right? But man, it's getting harder and harder to make those good choices, to focus on the positive. And we're losing the real connections of human touch. And that's really causing big problems, is we don't have those human communities to fall back on like we used to. And it's just not the same to focus in and depend on your text thread to be your support group. That's not the same.
I think you nailed it. And I think that's where we're kind of like in this confused, crazy world. Because again, a lot of us do like that. That's why I do the networking that I do. I like the in-person. Again, I've said it, and I was one of those that when COVID happened and B and I went to just online like we're doing now, I was so against this. Like I'm like, this is not personal at all. Like I can't get behind this. But as I started to do the podcast and stuff, I think that's where we need to. And that's where I kind of transition. So I still like the in-person and being able to see and be with people, because the energy is just different. I think you can feel a lot, and me and Nick are very similar with that. Almost like dogs. You go into a room and there's good energy, bad energy, or woo, what's going on in here. Kind of just have that. And
yeah. So I, most of what I do is Zoom all day long, and so I've grown accustomed to it, and it's a great tool. And specific podcasts that are positive, uplifting, and give the message that you're looking for, I think that's fine. The problem is it's a lot easier to make the choice to go to the cookies as opposed to the salad, right? It's a lot easier on social media to make the bad choice of the podcast and go and just keep going down the darker and darker holes.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I agree. And that's,
I'll pick up my phone sometimes with a very specific intent. I just need to look for this. And then it's like 40 minutes later, and I was like, what was I looking for? Why did I even pick up the phone?
I think Jim Quick. So shout out to Jim Quick, but I think he calls that digital dementia is what he's calling, or they coined that or call that. But yeah,
I'm going to steal it because that's a good term, and it's totally applicable.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It's 100. I mean, how many numbers? You just start with the simplest. How many phone numbers does everybody remember? I mean, I used to remember all phone numbers. We didn't have anything like this. Now, like most people can't even remember their own phone number, or especially like what would be their first call or emergency number. Like they can't even remember that. And so,
I had to look up my wife's the other day just to put it on a form.
There you go. And so it's again, it's a trap. It's the distraction trap that we talked a lot about in the podcast last night. But yeah, it's you nailed it with the negativity, and so you get caught into the negativity trap, and then the distraction trap, like
and then all of this going on while you're physically alone.
And you nailed it there. The isolation. That's what the phone has allowed us to do the most. That I think is the hardest. Like before, if you were battling something inwardly or dealing with something that like you needed that alone time, you didn't have a phone to then kind of go and deep dive even darker into that hole. You had your thoughts, and usually that's. Again, you had your guts.
Bad enough on their own. Yeah, that's bad enough. That can be bad enough just with your own thoughts.
Absolutely. But you can at least sit in those. And again, once you get comfortable in that's like the journey, I think. So once you can get comfortable in going away and sitting in those those thoughts and playing through all of them as if you're playing a game of chess. Like, okay, this is going to go this way, and then this is the next move, and ooh, okay, yeah, that doesn't go good that way. I mean, that's literally how I have most conversations. Me and Nick are similar that way too. I didn't know he was that way, but I do that with almost every, especially if it's, I know it's sitting on me, like I know it's something that I just keep. I try to, because I'm very intentional. I try to just focus, like I share, on just the next 15 minutes. Like, so I try to plan everything out and be structured, but I don't try to focus too far ahead and just in front of me. But
What
like,
was your
there's
quote on the 15 minutes?
what's that?
What was your quote on the 15 minutes? If we don't know what to do over the next 15 minutes.
Oh yeah. It was so you're lost if you don't know, and so it was really, it was Tom Bilyeu. I think I still have that video, but it was Tom
All right.
Bilyeu
That's
just
right.
giving.
I was trying to think
Yeah,
about that this morning when I was doing my own thinking, Tom, and I could not remember where that came from.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah. Tom Bilyeu's keynote speech, and again, that's where I. So it's funny. My brother, I think, in the ways that I don't relate to Tom, I think he does, with the more very analytical and logical to it. But at the same time, I relate to a lot of the things, and that was one of the biggest things. Is what he says is just clarity, and that's what he was talking about with clarity, and then just the next 15 minutes, and it's there's so many books, there's so many things, there's so many podcasts like this out there with people who, again, no matter what we choose or whatever we want to go after, there is somebody at this point that I think we can, I've heard John say that enough. And again, John experienced a lot more than I probably experienced in my life through his crazy journey of this world. And so for him to say you check everything. It's already been done before. You can think you're doing something new. It's already been done before. Like, I've heard him say that enough that it's like, okay, if he says that, like, then it definitely has. So there's an answer somewhere, or at least a roadmap or a path to find kind of the help, like we talk a lot about, the mentors that you never met or don't know they're your mentors, that you can follow to chase those. But we get stuck on even answering that deeper down thing, like we talk about here. It's that Sunday night, I don't want to do this work, I don't want to go to that work, but I also don't want to try to do the thing that I really want to do, and I don't even want to listen to that thing that I really want to do. I just
Every time one of those, you're just shrinking and shrinking into that little ball of, I'm not going to do anything.
mm-hmm. Oh yeah. Oh
Well,
yeah. Oh, this is
I'm gonna blame this on digital dementia, but normally a quote like that one that I really like, in the past, it just sticks, right? And so yesterday I wanted to use it, and I could not come up with it, and so I'm gonna have to get more diligent at writing some of these things down. I can't depend on my digitally dementia brain to
well, I'm
remember.
gonna play it on digital dementia and the video, because and maybe it'll stick then, because and again, I love it. Anybody, if please, this keynote is 2 years old, but I've probably watched it now 3 or 4 times, because he's just answering other people's questions in business in all different levels, and he very simply gets them to the next step by just getting rid of all the other BS that you think, or all the other things you have to answer, and just what's the next thing. And so I think before I play this, like, what he's trying to drive home is the same thing of what I've talked a lot about with Trevor Moawad, and It Takes What It Takes, and neutral thinking. Like, it's just the concept of neutral thinking. So negative, you're never going to stop from being up here, and more than likely negative is always going to be up there way more than positive. But the key to keeping that is what we talked about first. Avoid negative other things, the news, the music you listen to, the anything else that's giving you the negative. Avoid that. You already have it enough up here. But then the power that he talks about, why it's so powerful up here, he says in his book that a negative thought is 7 to 10 times more powerful than a positive thought. So think of that. 7 to 10 times more powerful. Now, if you speak it, there's 10 to 30 times more that it now exists. Or if you hear it spoken, that it will manifest to you. So if you can just believe that, like I do, yeah, maybe I'm believing in the woo, but I'll tell you, it changed my life. But the more you're intentional with removing any negative, um, it, it's easy to fight that negative thought from just not coming out and just, okay, why am I having this negative? And just keeping it there, going back to it, or if it's so strong, taking that break away and really
Yeah, just acknowledge the
digesting it.
negative.
Just,
Acknowledge it. Isn't it interesting that that thought would come to mind? But that's not who I am anymore. I am, and then your positive I am statement to kind of override it and to combat it. Yeah.
and then what he teaches and why he calls it neutral thinking is, and he said what triggered him to, even as he was learning how to explain this idea or theory of thinking, because so Trevor Moawad, his dad was Bob Moawad. He was known as Mr. Positivity. I guess there's even a board of positivity or something like that, and he was even on that. But he said his dad got trashed so much for being extremely positive. And I can understand that because I've been destroyed my whole life for thinking everything. Well, like, okay, it just happened. Like, whatever. Like, let's figure it out. And so what he teaches, though, is like a car has to go to neutral. So if you're going backwards, if you're going in reverse, so you're focusing on the rear view mirror, the things that happened in the past too much, you're going in reverse. The first way is to go to neutral, stop, accept whatever the negative shit that happened, and then what's the next thing that you have to do, and just focus on that. And that's really what he's teaching. And obviously in the sports world it makes so much sense and why he was so successful. And again, Nick Saban, he shout out to, and you guys don't believe it working or these crazy ideas, he was the brain child and the kind of whisperer or mindset coach behind Nick Saban and Nick Saban's theory, Jimbo Fisher, and what he did over there, and even Russell Wilson. And so Russell Wilson has faced some of the hardest, craziest things to on the biggest stages ever to come back and have the right mindset. But it's, again, he's very intentional. Very
And
intentional.
Russell kind of, when things started turning south, was after he lost this guy.
Yes. Yes. Oh, we might have to have a whole nother conversation about that because yeah.
You know,
That's
my dog is named Russell after Russell Wilson, so we can
I
have this
didn't. No way. I did not know that. Hold on. Let's go more into that before I show this clip. Then
guy.
I did not know that. So when did you?
He's an NC State legend. Of course, I'm going to name
Oh my
my dog
gosh.
after
Yes,
an
you're
NC
right.
State.
Okay. Yeah, that makes
And
sense.
Your Browns just signed another one. Naheem Hines is coming to the Browns.
I know he's on my fantasy league. I almost was teetering on do I keep him, but he's staying now.
Well,
You know, like
he's probably not a feature back, so make sure he's
no.
a yeah.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Well, we play in such a stacked, crazy league. It's more of a dynasty. 2 quarterbacks, 3 flexes, all this.
Oh,
It's
cool.
fine.
Okay.
It's wild and fun. But yeah. Okay, that makes a lot of sense then. Yes, I forgot the NC State tie. Okay, that. Well, and he's just a good dude. Like in the end, when you hear anybody, if you haven't read the book or seen the book, It Takes What It Takes. He obviously Trevor talks a lot about Russell, but like even his mindset of he listens to, according to Russell, Trevor, one of the big things for Russell and Sierra in their house is they always listen to Hillsong United because one, the melodies of it are uplifting and positive. Listen to the songs, you'll see it's true. Again, coach, that gets deeper into the Bruce Lipton and the energy and vibration, which I think plays a huge factor in everything of our life. But
So
yeah.
I have a few issues with the theology that Hillsong bases a lot of the things they do on, but their melodies and their music is indisputably good. I mean, it's really good
Yeah.
melodies and good music.
Yeah, I agree, and it's wild. Again, not going too far off where we were going with clarity, but yeah, the vibration, guys. If you don't believe it, I mean, have you ever heard somebody sing a song and it just gives you chills because you're like, wow, that voice or whatever, or like any kind of thing, like. There's more to that. It's not just because it's some weird feeling that you just had.
Everything in the universe operates on a vibrational frequency. The chair I'm sitting in is operating on a vibrational frequency. You can't tell me there's not something to it.
Yeah, I agree. But Coach, we'll wrap this up. We kind of went over where we wanted to end, anyways. But I'll end it with the video that you were talking about, so that that quote sticks in your head, and we'll just end it with clarity, because I think, again, that's anybody, we'll kind of stick to our theme. We're coming to the end of the month. It's almost Easter, but also almost the end of third quarter or first quarter. So get clarity. And again, like you said, Coach, on Tuesday, even obviously look at what you've had planned for second quarter, but start to even like what we do now is going to 60, 90 days out. So really start to plan on third quarter. Like really do what you have to, and grind and stick to your plan in second quarter. Don't totally change it, blow it up, or think you gotta, like, oh no, catch up, because that's usually the game. It's like trying to eat it. Again, sales, I could drop sales little BS that they've taught me my whole life. That's like trying to eat an elephant all at once. The easiest way is to one bite at a time. And that's, you want to take on any task.
What are you going to change? What are you going to eliminate? Move forward. Basic analysis.
That's it. Well, here's Tom Bilyeu, you guys. This was his keynote 2 years ago.
Think you're clear on what your goal is. You really believe it, but you're not clear. Step number one is get clarity. And this, I hear a version of this all the time. Tom, I already know what I want. In fact, maybe you already have a business. Your business is already doing great. You're making $10 million a year. You're fucking killing it. But you can't figure out why you can't get to the next level. And I will tell you it's one of two things. Either you're not clear enough, or you're not running the physics of progress, which is just a loop. So here's what people will say when they think they have clarity. I want to win a gold medal, Tom. That's amazing. In what? The Olympics? Yes, Tom, the Olympics. Fantastic. Summer or winter? Summer. My man. Swimming or tennis? Swimming. Fantastic. Backstroke? Freestyle medley? What are we doing? Until you have so much clarity, this is another one, burn into your soul. Until you have so much clarity that you know what to do with the next 15 minutes, you're lost. If the next 15 minutes isn't self-evident to you, you're lost. So whenever you're like, I'm not sure what the next move is, it's because you don't have enough clarity. Goals.
I've been a victim to that a billion times, over playing out all the ideas, falling in love with all the ideas, but it's just the action. Just what's the first or next step that you have to do, and just try that and see what happens. And again, back to Diane, when she mentioned that. But and props to you, Coach. I'll end with this, and props to all the inventors on Safe and Sound, and the people who do believe in it. Again, I talk about belief. I am crazy, but obviously there's probably other things that have kept me from trying some of the crazy ideas. But I had a Shark Tank idea, like Diane. I found a need. It was a need that I know most guys, because I seen it then on Shark Tank way years later. But I did the whole, created the product, did everything. I had it. I was using it for probably 2 years before I seen it on Shark Tank. But it was literally, I forget what he called it, but it was for guys shaving. And so what I did was I took one of those from your hair shaving things that you put around, the cloaks or whatever, and the plastic things. I just tied it around. I popped two little hooks with the sticky magnets and stuck it on the mirror, and that's how I'd shave, so that there wasn't all of the mess all over like the sink, because it's, guys, it's impossible. And wives, you always follow up, and you complain because we always miss two little hairs, because they're so hard to clean up and find. And so like I did that just to see on Shark Tank that product. I'm like, oh, I knew this was good. I just didn't believe in it enough. But yeah. So shout out to Diane for really seeing the miter box, going on that journey, and seeing a need and really wanting to fix it.
So I'm working on the 34th year of being married. And when the kids left the house, like the greatest day ever was when we both got our own bathroom. Even though, you could have multiple sinks, it could be like Cowboy Stadium of sinks in the bathroom, and she's going to fill them up, man. And I'm going to have one little corner. So getting my own bathroom was the greatest day ever.
Oh, I'll bet for both of you, because again, I mean, Maggie will get, and I'll try to clean. I'll try to clean everything, looking, and they're still like, it's more of a test than you think, ladies. I promise, it really is. But yeah, had to throw that out there, because when you were talking about Diane and taking the risk of the idea, I'm like, yeah, I had an idea and I didn't do it. And again, there's a lot of people who've had that. My dad had an idea of the rake he said that you end up seeing that closed. He had the idea of that rake for a long time, never did anything, and they made that rake that did that. But yeah, it's and it's really just listen. That's back to that inner voice. There's something. That's what I feel like that thing on Sundays, that bad feeling that we get, or that Monday feeling, is because there really is something like in us that's saying like, hey, this is
There's
not.
more. There's
Yeah, there's
something else.
you're like, you had fun with this, but okay, you're on to the next. Like, you need more.
There's a purpose.
Yeah. Yeah. So, Coach, this is fun. And Diane, so again, shout out to Diane. Thank you so much for sharing your story, for coming up with the amazing product, the original
AFO
AFO
Assist.com.
Assist. Yep. Please, if you do know anybody going on that journey, or struggling with any of the symptoms that Diane shared, please share that episode, and you just might give somebody the freedom that 18-year-old had in the story Diane shared, or even the testimony that
The
that
two
I shared.
testimonials are powerful. So if nothing else, listen in for those and share.
Oh yeah, yeah. And again, I guarantee you can pay attention to people's keywords or how they're feeling. Like when Diane was sharing that story, I instantly went to, man, I can only imagine like the kind of like the thoughts in this poor 18-year-old's head. Like, okay, I want to move out, I want to do this, but how am I going to do this?
Yeah.
Like, and so, you know, pay
Yeah, because
attention to
you got
those
to be telling
things.
yourself, well, I can't do that because I can't even. And now you take away that, and the independence is gained. Man, that's a miracle.
Yes. Yes. So again, if you know somebody who needs that extra independence, please, Safe and Sound Caregiving Worldwide Network, the original AFO Assist. Please, there's so many amazing products out there. You just make a relationship, find a good, trustworthy source, and just keep connecting. But keep connecting the dots along this game. But Coach, this is fun. Tuesday we have a local guy, and so I can't wait till we can start. So got to bring you back up here so we can check out Gather, because I want to start doing our local guest in the episode in the studio together. But we have Andres from AKK Painting. Amazing dude, guys. If you doubt the power of networking, if you think that it's just a bunch of nerds wanting to get together to have friends because they don't have friends from any other place, you're wrong.
And so what if it's true? There's always room for one more. Come on.
Absolutely, and it could be true. But Andres will actually, when he told me kind of his business, so what you guys are going to learn and hear is he literally breaks down his business by the business that comes from networking and the business that comes from every other source. And he has that tracked. And most of his business comes from networking. So if you have a local company, service-based product or service, this is an episode you're not going to want to miss, because you might be beating yourself up calling, again, Coach, we talked about it, digital dementia. You're going on Google, and instead of talking to your environment or your community around you, you're just searching where you can find some help, and you might be falling trapped to one of the corporate traps of Google AdWords, or this foreign company that does Google AdWords, or that's these really expensive ways of marketing that the big companies do. But you're on a local service. You're, like Coach said, a little more adaptable and can do things locally on a different level than a corporate company can. And so the strategy's there. Make the connections there. And sometimes, again, I can't wait for Andres to come on, but
You got to learn to fight on your terms, not theirs.
He's been a lifelonger BNI, and he believes in the power, and he has a guy that I'm pretty good friends with in another group, and he's in one group, and I think he has another team member in another group, and so they really understand the value. God, there's so much value to it. relationships. In the end, I think that's going to be the key. Relationships. Focus on relationships. The game of business or life is just people, and so relationships is what changes that. But Tuesday, like and subscribe. Coach, I'll let you end it this time. Because you ended it perfectly with and you know how we end this. So until this everybody have a great weekend. But until Thursday or until Tuesday.
Yeah, until Tuesday. Feed the good wolf.
Feed the good wolf. Yes. Come on, video.
Always on the red eye. This time around, it's not even about getting paid. I'm just an